Arrogant, throwing fits, ripping shit, tearing it, imperative. Then I'm killing this mic no matter where I live. These derelict rappers acting the fool, this embarrassing is flagrant. That's the nature of this entertainment, and we can't even change it. Guilty before arraignment, now the system tainted. But when we speak, they all laugh at us. And y'all wonder why I'm lacking trust. Try to fight a giant with attorneys that can back them up. That's church versus science, both sides start acting up. I'm late on my assignment, hopping up a mile high, climbing, obviously never silent. New alignment, I'm defiant, can I describe it? Used to describe it as a young graffiti artist. Before the beard, I always got carded. Hit every bar, even though my bar's been the hardest. The scars on my face, and I ain't always been the smartest. But I'll show you where my heart is. I said I'll show you where my heart is. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. Even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will ever see. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. Even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will ever see. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. I can show you where
the type of guy that would ride with the breeze. I'm higher than most people. I'm cold and icicle freeze. I'm liking to Mike Tyson. I'm a bison, a beast. I'm hot like Jamaica, like right by the beach. My pops is from a spot where they're fighting for peace. 8 years old out there watching people fight in the streets. All these sirens only make the violence increase. Yeah, we're still not loving police. It's that bright young American, nice, dumb, arrogant. Tight on a mic, but he might need a therapist. Heart full of kerosene, head full of fairy tales. Said that you're my homie, you don't know me, but I know you very well. Roll back on some West Coast shit. This whole track is wetter than your dress code kiss. About to hit the track, running on some retro fit. I guess so lit, I guess so bitch, now let's go.
Show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. Even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tuesday. Sports nonsense and whiskey, hanging with the fellas. Pinky, how we doing this evening, good sir?
What's up? Let's go. Oh man, let's get it.
There's a lot to discuss tonight. There's a whole lot to discuss tonight. Robert, on a business trip. He will not be here with us this evening, but he's always here in spirit. So we decided to bring a couple guests over, get into the action. Haven't talked to them in a year. They are, we'll call them our golf experts. They're gonna come on, chop it up with us, speak a little Masters, which starts tomorrow. We've got to discuss the NCAA tournament and how that finished up. Nuggets news to discuss a little bit.
Oh,
and
we have to. We have to.
Where else the evening will take us. So, Pinky, without further ado, I say we jump into this. One of our guests is having a little technical difficulty. He should be back here shortly, but I mean, we really only bring him in so that we could get his buddy Statman on with us to get the real information. So we'll bring him on now, and we'll just start jumping into things and see what happens. So without further ado, our buddy Chris, welcome back.
Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers, welcome. Sir. Let's go. What are we drinking, buddy? What are we drinking?
You know, it's I'll show you. I'll show you what we're drinking. Got this old bottle of Canadian Club whiskey that I had a neighbor pull out of his garage that I was so skeptical on, but it's like from the 70s and it tastes great. So that's all that matters. That's all that matters.
Would you look at that? First
Canadian,
what's going on in the world?
Canadian Club. I'm pretty sure it's just like well whiskey north of the border, but any of your Canadian fans can correct me on that if it's.
I love it. Yeah. Let's see if our boy Chase Cotton, the best there is. Let's see if he can come on and join us here.
Caleb, check your phone, bro.
I'm in, baby.
Hey,
yeah, there he is.
Let's go.
Cheers.
Cheers,
love
Cotton.
His relationship with these iPods or whatever they're called.
Yeah, yeah. AirPods, iPods, whatever.
You know, the thing.
Exactly.
Good to see you, fellas. Good to see you.
And ye, cheers.
So,
I made a special run to the store just to get some whiskey for this show.
Let's go.
What are we drinking on? We know Chris has got some old-ass porn whiskey. And what do you got tonight?
Well, I'm not the biggest Conor McGregor fan, but I do like his whiskey.
Better than Jameson. It's better than Jameson. You heard it here first.
You've gone too far, Pinky.
Yeah, this is the JMO King over here, so you got to be careful.
I just it's not. I think Proper 12 is a little bit sweeter. That's probably why I like it.
Yep,
Jack,
it is.
so,
It is a little sweeter.
Give me some Jack over some
I'm drinking
J-Mo.
it with lemonade, so it doesn't really matter what you're drinking that well.
Perfect. All right. So let's jump into the Masters here a little bit. We've got tournament starts tomorrow, which anybody that's ever listened to us knows I absolutely love on so many different levels. Tournament starts Thursday. Open the floor. Chris, Chase, where would you guys like to begin, and what do we need to be discussing?
There are so many storylines this year. I feel like, well, I kind of feel this way every year, but there's so much. And I think that, like, last year we talked a lot, I remember, about how the live split was going to be, interesting to see all these live guys back playing Augusta again, everybody kind of in the same tournament again. And like, it kind of like Rahm kind of flopped a little bit last year. Koepka didn't really challenge for anything last year. I think in the last year, DJ has pretty much given up playing golf. It seems like, from his numbers anyway, on the live tour. So I am not very hot on the live, as hot as we were on the live guys this year at all. I think it's going to take a lot for any of these guys, maybe outside of a Cam Smith, to take this thing.
For the most part, I agree with you there, Johnson. I think last year the live guys were playing with a little chip on their shoulder, and there's a lot of talk about those guys getting hefty bonuses for top 5 finishes and winning and whatnot. But at this point, I kind of think the only guy that's got any firepower from live to win is Bryson.
Agreed.
That dude is kind of playing out of his mind right now, and one of the
just
big
won last week, right?
What was that?
Didn't he just win?
I couldn't tell you that.
He came in 5th last week, it looks like, at the Miami tournament, but he's been playing very well.
Yeah, he's been playing very well, very consistent, and we all knew that he's got the longest driver on the tour, but he's starting to dial in the accuracy with that bad boy. And the other big thing this year is that Augusta lost a lot of trees in the hurricane down there, and so the lines from the tee box are a lot different this year, from the tee box and the second shot. They're going to be able to take some more aggressive lines, where in the past they would have had to go around some trees, and now they're going to have a little less trouble.
That is a very interesting point. I had not even given that any consideration.
Yeah, they lost a lot. So the guys that can bomb it, have a little more runway to do so.
I think if Bryson's going to win the Masters, this is probably his best look that he's had so far. I think this is like his best opportunity.
Has there been a better villain to hero story than what Bryson has gone through in the last 18 months?
No,
I don't think so.
No, there's not. I think I was a Bryson hater up until recently. I was a Bryson hater. All the scientist stuff, all the stupid things that he was doing, and the him and Koepka drama and all these things. But I think with social media, Bryson's kind of shown us who he really is outside of tournaments and whatnot. And there's a lot of relatability to other golfers. They're like, all right, this dude isn't such a nerd.
And who doesn't love trying to hit a hole in one over your house, right? Like that's fun kid stuff that you just it's hard to not watch and be like, yeah, that's kind of fun.
I mean, I've been a fan of his since he first came on the tour. The idea that he took that book, put it into practice, was so out of the box that there wasn't even a box to jump out of. And it kind of took the tour by storm, in the sense that he kind of was playing well and everybody had to pay attention to it. But nobody quite understood it. Nobody really got it. the more he explained things, the further away from understanding it seemed to get for most people. But I always loved the fact that he was willing to go completely against the grain in a sport that was so heavily influenced by tradition. And I respect tradition. I love tradition. There's a place for it. But I also think there's a place for evolution and growth and change. And the PGA, golf in general, had become so stagnant for so long that seeing him do something different and then win while doing it, I just thought was really good for the game. And I was surprised it took so long for people to kind of catch on to that.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm high on Bryson this year. You know, especially when I found out that, you know, he's going to be able to bomb some stuff with the lack of trees. But I did see an interesting stat that the past U.S. Open winner has never won the Masters the following year, which would exclude Bryson.
Well, so what happens first, the U.S. Open winner or Rory getting his career Grand Slam?
There you go.
I don't. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people are saying if there's a year to do it for Rory, it's this one. You know, he's playing really well up into this one, but at the same time, like, you know, with Rory, with all that pressure, you know, come Sunday, he puts a lot of pressure on himself, and you know, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't get it done this year with all that pressure. But Johnson, what do you think about that?
You know, there's nothing I would love to see more. I think I had this dream last year of a Bryson Rory playoff coming down the stretch at the Masters to just, you know, really intensify the Live versus PGA. Rory going for his Grand Slam, like that'd be lovely. I think Rory is poised this year. He's had a better shot. He has a better shot this year than he's had in recent memory to kind of try to get this thing done. But again, that just adds more pressure on top of him, which he's shown at Augusta has kind of been like his bugaboo, you know, like it's been the monkey on his back for all these years. And so like he's poised, but will it translate into results? I think he's got to come out firing, and I think he's got to like be far away from that cut line you know, come Saturday or Friday afternoon, and you know, to kind of set his mind at ease a little bit, and you know, try and make a serious run at this thing.
Well, now, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't his Achilles heel at Augusta the fact that he can never get off to a good start? He plays like fire on the weekends, and if he had just stayed, you know, even par on the first 2 days, he probably already has his green jacket, right?
He's got to start strong, which is why I think like, and he knows that. You know, he nobody else knows that better than him, I'm sure. So like, to kind of get that over that initial hump of, you know, getting off, you know, playing that first 9, not making a lot of mistakes, not blowing up anywhere, and just kind of showing himself like, okay, this year can be different, I think is probably going to be pretty important mentally for him.
I like that. So no Tiger.
It's a shame.
Probably not ever going to see him at a competitive level again. That's probably safe to say.
Yeah, I think that's very safe to say at this game. Outside of the indoor simulator league thing that's going on there, yeah, I don't see any competitive.
That's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun for sure.
I think he's got 1 or 2 Masters in him left.
Okay, so let me ask you this: at what point does Tiger transition to the honorary first tee with Tom and, you know, whoever else they have doing it in the next year or two? Because Jack's done, right? Last year was his last year doing it.
Oh shoot, was it?
I might be off there.
Well,
but I thought I remember hearing something about how Jack was gonna start stepping away.
Got you. You know, it's interesting. I have a bet with a buddy, like if Phil will ever become an honorary starter, you know, since he went to Live, but he'd kind of like be a shoe in, like as an old guy starter. So I don't know if is that like, I don't want to say below Tiger. I mean, Tiger's going to do it at some point, but I mean, we're still a little ways off, I feel like, right?
We're a ways out. I think you got to be at least old enough to play on the Champions Tour, which Tiger is not there.
What's that, 50?
I think it's 55.
Yeah, Yeah, so he's still got some years, but I mean, the way his game's looking, that body broke down on him real bad, and it's not recovering in a sense that I can see him going. The reason I think it happens soon is because Tiger's not going to go out there and play around just to play around. Like, if he doesn't think he can win, I feel like it's in his nature to be like, all right, I'm just not entering the tournament. So if that becomes something that happens, then that's why I am curious to see at what point he is like, yeah, let me just go ahead and bomb this first tee shot, unlike these old guys can do. And then I'm going to go ride a cart around and watch everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a shame, really. Like, I mean, we'll always have 2019 though, right? Like, which is one of the best sporting moments I've ever witnessed, on television. But like, the records, that he could have had in surpassing Jack and stuff, like all of that, like, is still like, you wish that it could have happened. You really do. But I mean, he's lucky to be walking at this point, I think, just in general. So, there's that.
Yeah, that's very true. What do we feel about, this is kind of my own name for him because I don't have something better, and maybe they do have a name and I just haven't been paying attention, but the Banana Boat Boys of golf, in the Spieth and the Thomas and the Ricky Fowlers and that group of guys who at one point looked like they were the next up and coming wave of young golfers to take the mantle. What do we feel about that group this year?
Well, Ricky's not playing one, I don't think.
Yeah, he didn't qualify. Spieth and JT, they're both. They're not top tier guys by any means, but they're not the A squad, they're the B squad. I think at this point, at the top of that, I think JT has a lot better chance than Jordan does. Just because his form has been a lot better. His head game, I think, is a lot better. He's been more consistent. Spieth has won this thing before, so he knows what it takes. Obviously, he has the mental fortitude, but with the recent form that they're both entering in, I would place JT above Spieth.
Would you have? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
I think I disagree with that a little bit. I feel like I think we mentioned last year how JT kind of plays Augusta in a weirdly good way, even when he's not coming into form. But Spieth has kind of had a little bit of a quiet bounce back as of late. Like, he at the Cognizant, he was 9th. Players, he made the cut and finished low, but Valspar, he was 28th. Last week he was T12, and the stat that I really like to see on Spieth coming into the Masters is that he gained over 1.22 strokes putting last week at Valero over the field, which I think is good putting form coming into a place where you're kind of going to need that a little bit. So,
I mean, if you can't putt, the Masters is out of the question, right? I mean, that's pretty much instantly off the table right there.
I'm looking at Spieth to finish T25 or better at this week.
I mean, to play devil's advocate, Johnson, those last two tournaments were Texas tournaments where he's from and has played more than anywhere else and is good dealing with the Texas wind and rain and things like that. So, the weather's supposed to be good, at Augusta, and he's got a lot of history there too. But to play devil's advocate, he's played those Texas courses a lot, and I feel like they don't really compare to Augusta.
That's fair. That's a fair point. And JT has been in better form than we've seen him in a long time. So, like, it'll be interesting. It'll be really interesting to see how they both kind of fare.
So you both think Bryson's in a good position. We think Rory's actually in a good position right now. Who else would you put in that upper tier right now of legit winners?
I mean,
I should say a legit chance to win the Masters.
I mean,
well,
the favorite still is
Scotty.
I mean, it's Scotty, right? Is it not? I mean, he's playing really good golf, and he hasn't like spiked a win, since he's been back from his surgery. But like he is playing good golf, and finishing second and gaining a bunch of strokes on the field again, and just like doing things that one needs to do to last year there were only like 6 or 7 people under par last year at last year's Masters, and given that, Scheffler went out and shot 11 under and gained over 4.5 strokes on the field total last year at the Masters. And Oberg, who finished second, gained 3 strokes. So like he has to have an off week to like not be threatening, I feel like, on Sunday.
Okay. What would you say is that second tier then? Are we talking about like a Xander Schauffele type that could be well in contention, but maybe not be one of the favorites per se?
Yeah,
Well,
I like Xander. Go ahead, Chase.
I'm all over Colin Morikawa this week.
I was thinking of as well.
He is the most accurate iron player right now, I would say. Last week, he led the field in strokes gained approach, which is exactly what you're going to need. This is a second shot course, always has been. And the dude has finished top 10 in each of the last 3 Masters. Like, you want to talk about horse for the course? Like, this dude knows how to get it done at Augusta. And, he's healthy. He's been consistent too. So he's still one of those top tier guys for me this week.
And his form is like, the worst he's finished in the past 5 weeks has been 17th. And, he's gaining strokes in every category except last week in putting except at the Players in putting. Every other category he's gained strokes on the field. Like that's kind of and you're good at the course and have threatened in the past. Like, yeah, I agree. Colin Morikawa is certainly somebody to keep your eye on for sure.
What do we think about guys who have proven to be major champion winners and at one point or another ranked number 1 in the world in Koepka and Rahm?
Man,
yeah, I'll jump in there first. I feel like the motivation in those guys has just significantly dropped. Their competition from week to week is very different, and I think it's become very apparent. John Rahm, outside of Bryson, I feel like is best composed to make a run at it. Koepka had those great couple years where he was the majors guy. Everybody was afraid of him, but he hasn't really made a splash, and hasn't really been. You see interviews with him, and it's just he doesn't seem like he's like locked in, laser focused like the Brooks of the past.
Yeah, and I think that like I agree with that. I'm fading Koepka in picks this week. I am. Dustin Johnson his numbers on the Live Tour are garbage as compared to the field. Like it's not like he's not even the same person. Outside of Bryson and Cam Smith, I think has been playing pretty good golf. Is still over on the Live Tour. And typically plays Augusta pretty well. So I don't mind Cam Smith this week either, but like even guys like Neiman, who I've been hot on in the past at Augusta, like I have zero interest in any of those guys really. Like it's a sad thing to say, but like it's just a reality, I feel like at this point.
Fair. So then who is the guy that's going to come out of nowhere and be sitting Sunday afternoon in a position to make a run? Because every year it feels like there's a story of someone, whether they end up completing the run or not, all of a sudden there's somebody sitting at the top of that leaderboard Sunday afternoon that you weren't expecting to see.
Yeah. For me, I think it's a guy who is not young by any means on the tour. Kind of creeping more and more towards that seniors tour, but Lucas Glover, I really like.
Ooh, that's a name that I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah, he has been playing very good golf. He finished 8th at the Valspar last week. He T3'd at the Players. Finished 36th at Arnold Palmer, but he's been gaining strokes against the field in every single category. At the Players, when he finished 3rd, he gained over almost 3.5 strokes on the field total, including on his approach game and his putting. And he is just quietly, he finished T3 at Pebble Beach as well this year. So I think that, and he's a guy who has seen Augusta before, and I think that he can kind of be a sleeper. He's 150 to 1 odds to win, and I think that's worth throwing $10 down on it,
Yeah, that's a good pick, Johnson, for sure. Mine would be Russell Henley. He recently won the Arnold Palmer. I don't know if it'd be a huge surprise out of left field because he's ranked 7th in the world right now because of that win at Arnold Palmer. But he's a Georgia native. He's got probably as much experience at Augusta than anybody else. His birthday's on Saturday. All the stars are aligning for that dude.
Wow.
I like that. Dropping a little bit of knowledge on the people, sir.
Little birthday tracker. I like it.
Little birthday boy. The whole family will be out there. I think he's going to be laser focused and pumped to get another win after Arnold Palmer.
I tell you somebody else who's kind of off of the radar that I also like this week, and it is Sepp Straka.
He's on my list too, Johnson.
He has been Cognizant Classic T11, Arnold Palmer T5, Players T14, Valspar T28, gaining strokes left and right. At the Arnold Palmer tournament, he gained over 1.5 strokes putting against the field, and is just quietly playing excellent golf. And I think that for somebody who is low down on the list, he's certainly priced low on like a DraftKings situation. He's certainly worth having as part of your lineup for sure.
I like
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah, he's been one of the most consistent dudes on tour this year. He's finished, like Chris was saying, he's finished top 15 in the last 6 of 9 tournaments he's been in. He's never missed a cut at the Masters. So definitely a good name.
So you mentioned at the beginning, Chris, all the different storylines going on. What is the one that's sitting at the top of your list that you're like, this is the one I'm most interested to see how it unfolds over the next 4 to 5 days?
I don't know if I'm punishing myself. Like I want to see Rory get the Grand Slam. I really do. And so I'm really going to be watching him on a Thursday and Friday and seeing how he's playing and telling myself, okay, you can detach yourself from the story, or all right, this could be a reality. So I would love to see that. Scotty is so dominant. It's very impressive that certainly seeing if he can become a 3-time master champion in a very short period of time is very interesting as well. But I certainly don't want it to be like the Scotty show. I want to see some guys jockeying for a position. I want to see guys, reaching for that little bit of extra club to carry that, just to carry that distance, just a little bit extra because they're forced to make that decision. I want to see those guys making those types of decisions as opposed to just, hit it to the spot and do the thing, and then I win another championship, So
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
My money, being the guy who loves all sports and a competitive nature and seeing that competition at the highest level, it's hard to put too many things above Sunday at the Masters, Amen Corner, and there's a handful of guys all within that lead. That, to me, that's one of the higher ranking sports things that can happen within the universe of sports, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all like to see a packed leaderboard, and the thing is that there's so much firepower on the leaderboard that it should be pretty crowded there towards the top. I don't see anybody putting 5 strokes on the field this year.
Let's hope not.
So now I want to transition a little bit. We'll do something a little lighthearted, and then we'll do something that I still baffled the man keeps saying every year. So lighthearted first. How many hole-in-ones do we get in the par 3 tomorrow?
1.
What are we looking at, gentlemen?
2.
I'll take the under.
Well, right, naturally. But I think we're gonna get a little magic tomorrow.
We'll see at least 4 tomorrow.
4.
You have
I just
lost
have
your
this
mind,
feeling.
Caleb.
We've seen it happen where all of a sudden, what was it, 4 or 5 years ago? It was what, Ricky, Spieth, and somebody else. Didn't they all have one in the same group? So I will say I'm hedging my bet a little bit in the sense that it doesn't have to be a player doing it either. So if
Fair.
Jack's grandson wants to step up, or was it Hideki Matsuyama wife a couple years ago? I think it was. Put
Count
one
'em,
within like a
count
foot
'em.
of the putt, the hole. So hedging a little bit in the sense that I'm not just looking at players, but I don't know why. I just feel like tomorrow we're gonna see some fireworks that just set the whole weekend off, in the sense that, like you guys have been saying, there is a lot of firepower, and it does feel like this is a year where we kind of get back to that crowded leaderboard and things of that nature. What better way to set it off than that?
It's true. And let me ask you, I remember talking at length last year about, is this the year that the winner of the par 3 contest wins the Masters? I know that you're itching for that, Caleb.
I am. That's one thing I would love to see. And part of it is to remove the stigma that goes with it, because I believe everybody in the Masters field should be playing in the par 3. Because of what it is. The family's going to be out there. The interaction with the crowd, and just the atmosphere that par 3 creates. Nobody needs to take it seriously.
Right.
Go out there and just have a good time. If you win it, great. And then go out there Thursday morning and do your thing the way you're supposed to and handle business. But I think if somebody finally wins it, it gets rid of that curse, that stigma, that thing that everybody says, like, if I'm serious about winning the Masters, I probably don't need to do this regardless of what my family wants to do, kind of thing. So that's why I root for it so much.
I just had to look up who won it last year, and it was Ricky.
I just wish he could find some consistency, and the fact that he still hasn't won a major kind of blows my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if that one Players Championship is going to be his peak forever. You know, like it was great, but like you want to see him win a major,
right?
Sure.
So yeah, Chris, for all of those reasons, I just think it would be incredible to finally see happen. The caveat to it though is you've got to get playing in the par 3, and like half the field doesn't even participate, and a lot of times the favorites aren't in it. So if they're not, it makes it really hard for those odds to work themselves out on the right side.
It's very true.
Yeah.
On to the more serious topic that continues to blow my mind year in and year out. What the hell is wrong with Gary Player? Does this man continue to list the Masters as the 4th major? First of all, you're out of your goddamn mind if you think the PGA is better than the Masters. Like, that alone should just say you don't get to talk anymore.
They should pull his honorary starter. Get him out of there.
What are we doing now? I am of the belief that for me, Masters is number 1, and it barely edges out the Open. But the fact that it is on the same course single year, and you know exactly what you're playing, and it still gives people fits every single year, to me, that gives it that slight edge. It's incredible. It's, the birthplace of golf. You get St. Andrews and all the light coming out there. Another thing that's kind of brutal, though, is you don't get great weather talking about the Open. Say what you want, but that limits the ability of the best to play at their best. And you start bringing other factors into who wins, namely what your tee time is, as far as do you have a good shot at the weekend or not. Whereas the Masters, for the most part, playing with the same conditions. Now the course dries out or gets a little wetter depending on the rain or the wind throughout the day, but it's a lot more of an even playing field, I would say, than the Open.
Well, and the Open is just such a different style of golf course, man. The links golf, like, you know, these top U.S. players, they're not used to necessarily playing links golf like the Euro guys are. You know,
There is out of King's Deer, right?
Exactly. So, you know, it's very different, which is why I'm so good at those little laser beams that don't make it more than 10 feet off the ground.
So, why does Gary Player hate the Masters? What am I missing here?
I don't know. Like,
He's old and senile.
Yeah, it's almost like you feel like he's doing it just because feels like he's contrarian at this point. But like, I don't know. Like, and I'm just thankful that opinion isn't the majority opinion of everybody else who loves golf. Let him be the cranky Masters man. I guess, you know, great, and he can still do however many push-ups before dawn or whatever he's doing. Like, fine. You go do your thing, Gary. We know you're quirky and unorthodox. You just have fun. We'll be over here playing beautiful golf and listening to Jim Nance and enjoying ourselves.
I love it. All right, boys. On the spot. Winner on Sunday.
Well, I'm gonna go outside of Scotty and Rory because I think those are the two very obvious answers. And like I said, I knowing that this is a second shot maker's course, you know, I'm going Morikawa is my winner here.
I like that. I'm going to be boring. I think Scotty's going to repeat. I just think that he is still like, I keep waiting for him to fade a little bit, and he's just like still running. If he's swinging a golf club, he's running hot. And, you know, when the guy blows up to the T17 and you're like, oh, he didn't play good golf, but he's still kind of doing great. Like, as long as things are firing, I think he's still the guy to beat. And he's too chalky to like bet in any type of like Vegas situation. But I think he puts the green jacket on himself. Who puts the green jacket on if you repeat? The chairman?
I was just wondering that myself. That sounds right.
I think the lowest amateur.
Ooh, that'd be pretty hot. That'd be a pretty fun thing to do if you're the lowest
okay,
amateur.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think it's the lowest amateur, and it's hard to argue with that, Johnson, because the thing is, Scotty hasn't won yet this year. So
Right.
like every week it's like, is this his week? Is this his week? And when he doesn't win, people are like, what's wrong with Scotty? It's like, well, he's still finishing top 10, top 5, top 15, but not having that win in comparison to how many times he won last year, like it's only a matter of time. So you know, it's a pretty safe bet, I think.
Yeah. Do you think that Oberg? I mean, he finished second last, and we haven't even mentioned him. And he is played all right so far. He's not exactly in form, but like he is kind of an explosive guy when he puts it together. And he clearly showed last year that he could, you know, go low at Augusta when the rest of the field was not. I don't know if like we're sleeping on him, you know.
Well, you know, when he puts it together, absolutely. But he's coming off 2 missed cuts in a row, and
yeah.
I love the bounce back, right? Because those guys, like, if they have a couple bad weeks, they figure it out, and next thing you know, they're firing back on all cylinders. But you know, Augusta's a tough course for a bounce back in the top 10 after 2 missed cuts in a row. You're probably in your head a little bit. You know you have the capability, but now you're going up against the best in the world. I don't know. I'm fading Oberg a little bit.
I hear that. I also had the thought there are like a couple of guys who are always like bridesmaids, never the bride, right? So, and I wonder who all you guys think might have the best shot of winning. It's Xander Schauffele, it's Shane Lowry, it's Tommy Fleetwood. Are all guys who are always there but never quite do the thing, you know?
Those last two names were going to be where I kind of ended this, because Europeans as a whole, I would say maybe that's too broad. Englishmen
Mm.
don't always seem to fare very well at the Masters come Sunday afternoon.
It's true. It's true.
And Fleetwood is a great example of someone who, you could almost put him in that Spieth and Thomas category, where there was a moment in time there where everybody was looking like, oh, this guy's about to break through. I believe it was 3 or 4 years ago at the Open. And then he's kind of almost faded a little bit since then.
I mean, he
Strong
finished.
iron player, seems to be able to grind his way through days when needed. Is he possibly in a position to play well this weekend?
Finished third last year here.
He's always in a position to play well. The thing is, he doesn't get it done. He's never got it done. And the Masters is not the place that you're going to get it done for your first one, in my opinion.
It's a very fair point. It's a very fair
But
point.
I wouldn't be surprised at all if he finished top 10. Not at all. He's consistent for sure. But does he have the mental fortitude and the firepower to win? No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I love it. Did we miss anything, gentlemen, that we need to discuss before we move forward?
Hideki's kind of not been in great form, even though he's a past winner, so not really loving it. What about Patrick Cantlay?
I'm fading Cantlay this week.
Okay, interesting.
Canceled all Delta flights into Georgia. No, I mean, he's another one that, typically he's pretty consistent. But, he's another one that, form has been okay. It's never bad with Cantlay, but he's just not very high on my list for winners, at least. He's another one, I could see him finish top 15 all day.
Yeah.
But, I feel like he's struggled to put 4 rounds together in a row yet this season.
Yeah, he kind of also likes the West Coast swing. I feel like he peaks out here in LA. He finished really good at the Genesis, which was at Torrey Pines this year. He traditionally does pretty well at Pebble Beach and the American Express. And by the time we get to Augusta, he's just kind of treading water in the middle of the pack. All right.
I'm going to throw one more name. I'm going to throw one more name out with Will Zalatoris.
Hey.
The dude has been very consistent. He has never finished outside of the top 10 in the Masters.
Right.
He's only had 3 appearances, but all 3 appearances have been top 10, and he has yet to miss a cut this season. So why would he miss a cut at a place that he's never finished better than top 10? So he's definitely high on the list.
It's true, but the thing that worries me about him, he's cleaned up his putting a little bit, but at Valspar he lost strokes to the field putting. At the Arnold Palmer he lost strokes to the field. He lost almost 1.5 strokes to the field putting at Arnold Palmer. He finished 22nd, but only because his irons and off the tee game were so great. But it worries me on these greens at Augusta.
Putting at Augusta is
yeah.
It doesn't get harder.
It doesn't get harder.
Love it. Gentlemen, absolutely wonderful. We will be doing this more often, whether we're talking golf or not. You gentlemen are going to be having to come on and discuss things with us. Glad we could get you back on for the Masters. You are more than welcome to stick around. Other things to discuss if you want to hang out. If not, adieu and good riddance.
I know Chase wants to talk Nuggets, I'm sure.
Oh man,
easy. Well, there. Okay. But before I am too riled up to calm back down, I want to make sure we discuss the NCAA tournament in Florida, and I am going to eat a bunch of crow right now because I said I didn't think Florida was good enough to get it done. I said I thought their SEC tournament run was a little inflated because the SEC was overrated. The SEC being a little overrated to be true for the most part. Florida, I said it the other night. I need to say it. I'm sure if I've seen with my own eyes a more impressive tournament run than what Florida just put together. UConn had them beat. Texas Tech had them beat. Auburn had them beat. Houston had them beat. In each one of those games, they continued to grind shots that probably shouldn't have gone in any other time. They were at key moments, daggers to the other team and whatever run or momentum they had going on. Florida's the cardiac kids through their veins. I cannot give that team enough props for the way they went through the field and were able to accomplish what they did.
Look, that may have been the ugliest championship run I've ever seen. Because they literally looked like dog shit very often and somehow found a way to win. Hat tip to them. Amazing. I compare it to there's another team. I'll ask you guys. This is one of the best come from behind cardiac kids championship runs. Can anybody name the other one that we've seen in the last 5 years where a championship team, not basketball, but a championship team literally came back in every single game they played to win it all? No thoughts? Nothing?
Came back,
the wheels
in
are
every,
spinning.
came back in every playoff game?
Every playoff game. They were down in every playoff game. It's the only other do or die sport.
I mean, come playoff time,
NFL,
they're
right?
all do or die, Pinky.
No, not in NBA,
is
not
what
in
he's
hockey,
saying.
not in baseball. It's 4. You got to lose 4. And there's only one other sport that it's do or die every single week of the playoffs.
Technically, there's 2 now because college football is do or die with the playoff system the way it's set up currently.
Kind of.
What do you mean, kind of? There's not like you get a second
they
chance.
Well, the team that won last year didn't do that in the college football playoffs, so we don't have to worry about them. It's not that hard, fellas. It was the NFL just a couple years ago. Stumped you guys. It was Kansas City Chiefs, 2019. They were down in every single playoff game. They were down to the Texans. Big
Bills year with the overtime?
No, down to the Titans in the AFC Championship game, and then they were down in the Super Bowl as well.
Yeah, well, I try to remember or try to forget most of the Kansas City Chiefs games.
That's my excuse too.
That's fair. I didn't see the second half of that Super Bowl, so I understand.
Talking to a Broncos fan and a Bengals fan. Like, you think they give a shit about the Chiefs?
So Florida did something that's really rare, something you don't see very often. Ugly as hell, but they got it done, and that's all that matters.
Saying they played like dog shit devalues.
Bro, I don't watch a lot of college basketball, but every Florida game I watched before halftime, they played like dog shit. It was ugly.
I will give you
and
that.
It was hard to watch.
They were
hard to watch.
It's odd because they looked very out of sync, discombobulated, whatever you want to call it. Could not find their rhythm. But the fact that I cannot stress enough how rare and insane it is for a team to never panic, regardless of the situation they're in, actual game time.
I think
Florida,
the mental fortitude that I think that is required, especially on a collegiate level, like where you have to have a short memory, forget how things have been playing, turn things around, grind it out, play from behind, take the buckets where you can get them, and to kind of gel together and have that mindset as a cohesive unit multiple times throughout the biggest time of the year for your sport. It's a big hat tip thing. It's super rare, I think.
It just, you don't see that. You don't see a team consistently be down, know they're not playing at their best, and not lose faith. You never saw their heads hang. You never saw them getting on each other or chatting at the refs or any of those kind of commonalities that you usually see when a team gets behind. and struggling. And to see that consistently over and over again, and each time I saw it, I go, they can't keep doing that. You can't do that again. You got away with it once. Okay, now you got away with it twice. That third time's going to bite you. No, third time's still good. Oh, national championship game, you just did it. You're done. No, never mind. I was wrong. Like, that's absurd. And it is so rare to see in sports that I honestly, this is the reason I said it's the most impressive run I've seen in my eyes, in my memory, is because I can't think of another time that I've seen that happen. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs, Pinky, I will give you, but that's professional sports. That's a different level. There's a history of playing the game there that you can fall back on at times. When you're talking about college sports, the likelihood that any of those kids had that kind of experience is slim to none. So for them to fall back and rely on the ability to say, "You're still good," is a trust that you rarely see in a team sport.
Well, a commonality that I see there is with good coaching too, and especially at a collegiate level, right? Because it's easy for those college kids, those 20-year-olds, those 19-year-olds, to hang their head. But when they have solid leadership that they trust and know that, all right, coach got us, coach going to drop some good plays. Same thing with Andy Reid. You know, nothing is fucked here, guys. Like, I've got a plan. You know, and if the players can get behind the coach's plan and know that, like, hey, we have a good chance of success, you know, I think there's going to be a lot more for them to rest their heads on and keep the head up.
That was a great point, Cotton. Great point. And I don't think Golden is maybe getting as much credit as he deserves. I mean, we had to listen to Dan Hurley for the last 2 years about how incredible he is and what he's been able to do for UConn basketball. And he is. I'm not going to deny any of that. Hurley's a phenomenal coach. What you just said brings up a lot of great points. And Golden is a young coach.
He's the youngest to win a championship, right? And so, and I think there's also, because of that age, there's some camaraderie with the players, because, you know, he's not Gramps, you know, he's not even old enough to be their dad. So, well, some of them maybe, but you know what I'm saying here. You know, there's that camaraderie because, you know, he's not a super old guy. He's a young dude. He can relate.
39.
39.
This is why I liked Duke, because of Shire and his ability to connect with his team. But their age caught up to him. I truly believe their freshmen, the inexperience at that level, is what caught up to them at the end of that Houston game, because they just made bad mistakes that were not something they did throughout the year.
Nothing made Pinky happier than watching Duke choke. Oh, it's amazing. It was amazing.
So,
I loved it.
Counter that with Florida, young coach, almost same situation, but a very veteran team when you're talking college sports.
Sure.
So, you know, their starting guard Clayton made a tournament run with Iona. So they had some things to fall back on of big moments, whereas Duke did not. Duke didn't have any of that experience. So I think that played a big factor in Florida being able to take that next step and continue to just run ice cold through their veins, like I said before. So hats off. Cheers, Florida. Well played. I got nothing else to say. I'll eat my crow.
And it tastes good, Caleb. It tastes good, buddy.
Eat it. Put a little Tabasco on it.
I've learned how to make it edible. That's for sure, Pinky.
Eat enough of it, you just get numb to it. It's all good. It's like drinking Jameson. You just get used to it.
A little riled up, and I think I'm going to surprise some people here, but let's see what happens. The Nuggets made a huge announcement today. And they fired their head coach effective immediately. And they announced they will not be re-signing their GM in Calvin Booth. I might be the only Nuggets fan, I feel like, who is not surprised by the firings. I am surprised by the timing of the removal of Malone. And this this is where I'm coming from. And I'm not going to backtrack. Just hear me out a little bit here. A couple years ago, before the Nuggets won the championship, I was convinced, and I said very publicly, that I believe the Nuggets were in a Golden State situation with Mark Jackson, Steve Kerr transition. And Mike Malone was their Mark Jackson, and he got them as far as he could, but they were going to have to find their Steve Kerr to take that next step and go win championships. And I had a lot of reasons why. Calling out players in inopportune times, to the way he handled the bench, to a few other in-game situational type things. They won the championship, though. And I admitted very quickly that I will eat crow. The team responded when I didn't necessarily think they would. And Mike Malone should be here for the long term, and he will have my backing regardless of any things I might disagree with him. I will always give him benefit of doubt going forward. The things I disagreed with never changed. I still very questionable with the way he used his bench and his rotation. I still did not like the way he was calling out players publicly. So on and so forth. But what I continued to say throughout this season, I'm going to say this as nicely as I possibly can. Because I look, everybody's got a job to do, and you try to do it the best you can, and I would like to believe he did. Calvin Booth is an awful GM. He is a horrendous talent evaluator. The dude has no feel for the game, in my opinion. I don't care that he played. Just because you played does not mean you understand the game. It just means you were talented enough to be on the court. And I don't think people quite separate those things enough when it comes to sports. Just because you were good at it does not mean you can then coach it or figure it out to bring a team together. And if you didn't learn that from Michael Jordan, I don't know a better example I can give you. Plain and simple. Calvin Booth is an awful GM. His vision for the Nuggets and the way he was going to extend their championship window was idiotic at best. But Mike Malone dug his own grave when he refused to work with said GM, when the ownership put said GM and signed off on that plan. So when you create that amount of tension and then that amount of insubordination, along with what I believe the ownership had some of the same concerns I did with that head coach, I think that's what ultimately led to them being able to say, we don't see this changing in the direction it's going. We can't bring another GM because the head coach is going to have to pick it, and that's not the way we want this to work. We have to move on. So firing a Mike Malone, I'm not entirely surprised about, but the timing to do it right before the playoffs are starting,
3 games left.
the only way that makes sense to me is if he's lost the locker room. When I say lost the locker room, I mean lost Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. To me, it is the only way that makes sense at this point. Otherwise, you allow him to make one more run and see what happens.
Yeah, I'm completely baffled by the timing, and it's go. And the thing is, had they not gone on a 4-game skid right now, would we be having this conversation? Like,
No.
Did this happen because of the last 4 games out of how many hundreds? Like, I kind of feel like they did Mike Malone dirty. Like, he has made the Nuggets more successful in his time there than any other head coach in Nuggets history. There's no debating that. And what you said, like, you didn't necessarily agree how he dealt with the bench. Well, the bench was the reason that, they were so strong in the championship and how they won. This year's a little different, and there's definitely been some injuries and whatnot, and couldn't agree with you more about GM. But at that point, like, why? To me, I don't understand getting rid of both. At least Malone has brought us to the homeland, right? He's got us the championship. He's got us to the playoffs a bunch of times. To me, it makes more sense to fire one or the other if there's that conflict, that push and pull that's not really working between the two. Get rid of the less of two evils. But both 3 games before the playoffs, I'm baffled. My mind is a little blown.
Here's what I'll tell you, and I shouted this out to Pinky as soon as the news came down. And I think that insubordination needs to be a word that people start really paying attention to. Because, and if you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. Kroenke gave an interview with Vic Lombardi of Altitude Sports this evening. And within that interview, body language to me from Kroenke, Josh Kroenke, says, I tried to have a conversation with Mike and let him know, like, hey, this is the kind of things we need to see and change, and this is the direction we kind of want to go in. We want to be on the same page, but you're making it hard. And I could be way off on this, but the feeling I'm getting is that Mike Malone kind of said, like, no, I want a championship doing it this way. I'm going to keep doing it this way. And it wasn't just then the butting heads with the GM. It became almost a philosophical difference at that point in time between what ownership thinks is possible and where they want to go and what Mike Malone wants to do and where he wants to go. And if we're being honest, what Mike Malone wants to do is no longer possible because of what Calvin Booth did with this roster. You're not going to get a veteran team anymore to make a run again. That's out of the question. Unless you can get somebody to take on Jamal Murray and Michael Porter's contracts and give you the same value in return, which if anybody knows the NBA knows that never happens. If you move a piece, you're getting less back.
Unless you're Rudy Gobert. The Jazz got far more in return than Rudy Gobert.
So, unique situation, yes. Danny Ainge fleeced the shit out of Minnesota. I wish you hadn't brought up Gobert because that just pisses me off even more. Most overrated player in the NBA today,
Never forget.
Never forget. Should never have won Defensive Player of the Year awards. Absolute. Too far off topic. Damn you, Pinky.
All right, look. Stan Kroenke had made the decision. He was going to go in a different direction. I think he saw...
Oh, I'm not hearing that. I do not think Stan had any say in this. I truly believe Josh runs this team, and it is his all, be-all word that ends everything. I do not think Stan has any say in this.
Josh is the head guy. Stan is his son. Josh Kroenke owns it.
Josh Kroenke runs the team. Stan Kroenke...
Well, whoever's the younger one is the one that, again, he's running the Nuggets.
Josh is the son. Josh is running.
Whatever. He's running the Nuggets, and he had, like you said, had a difference of opinion. He was going to let Malone go at the end of the year. He's going to let Booth go. He pulled the trigger on. He doesn't see us going to a championship. He pulled the trigger now, which is the latest in-season firing of any coach since 1980.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's wild. Absolutely
again,
wild. Now,
all the injuries piled up, all the stuff going on. They probably ain't getting out of the first round anyways.
That's the thing that it just drives me nuts. I love Josh, and I think he is the reason the Nuggets have turned it around. If you go back in history and you know anything about the Nuggets history in their organization, the moment Josh was allowed to run the Nuggets his own way, Stan went out to LA and basically handled whatever was going on with the development and everything that was happening with SoFi and the Rams. Josh, full control. I believe that for the last 6-7 years whenever he finally took over. I have believed in everything Josh has done. I've loved every move he's done until he put Booth in charge. That interview tonight, and again, go check it out. It's on Twitter. It was live on Altitude. There's plenty of places you can probably see it. What I saw from the body language of Josh Kroenke was someone who realized they had made an awful mistake with Booth. He was talked into a vision that was absurd, and he tried to get the head coach to work with what they had to try and better the situation, and the head coach didn't want to do it. I'm not faulting Mike Malone for that. I do think he's a good coach. That's why I always gave the comparison Mark Jackson, Steve Kerr kind of thing. Mark Jackson put Golden State in an amazing position to move forward. a lot of people when he got fired that said he should have kept the job and he probably would have won titles with Golden State anyways. Now the Nuggets are in the position where they have to find their Steve Kerr. And there's always names out there, young names, up-and-coming names who have never had coached that can take that next step. Missoula out in Boston is a great example right now. Somebody who took the reins and ran with it and then won a title. If you don't get that right, you're so far behind the starting line at that point that you will not see Jokic prime playing for a championship again. Now here's where
Cotton, what do you think?
I mean,
You gotta
the
stop
thing
talking,
is,
Caleb.
for the time, why now? What were they going to accomplish between now and the end of the season for the future? Nothing. So why now? It doesn't make sense. And again, Caleb, the only thing that you've said that made sense to me was you've lost control of your locker room. That's the only thing that I can think of. Like, if you've lost control of your locker room, then we have no chance in the playoffs. So if we're bringing someone else in, maybe they can regather it and we can get to the second or third round, you know. But the timing of it, like for future, you know, let them get through the season and then cut the cord. But like, what are we accomplishing 3 games before the playoffs? Unless we're literally throwing in the white flag and saying, all right, our season's fucked. Better luck next year. Is Jokic puts up, 62 points and 11 rebounds. Like, come on, dude. Like, as long as that guy is healthy and in the game, the Nuggets have a chance every single time. So why now unless Jokic doesn't want to play for you?
Yeah, it's hard to think otherwise. Like that, and that's what's crazy because by all accounts, Jokic and Jamal were Mike Malone's guys.
Correct. So like,
I don't know what else to think about this. Like,
that Malone has lost the respect of those 2 guys, because if those 2 guys don't respect Malone, sure, I can see the locker room following. But if those are his guys, what happened? And is it like something personal with Kroenke and those 2 guys? You know, that's kind of the way that I'm feeling here, is that there was something personal and Kroenke is like, well, I'm the fucking boss. So if you're not going to do what I say, eat a dick and be on your way.
And speaking as an outsider who doesn't, follow the Nuggets or the NBA very much, like relating, like I saw the headlines and everything today, but like relating this to like other sports and just like the late breakingness of it all, like there has to be something that there was impassable, like something behind the scenes had to have happened that it was just, we can go not one day further, because Chase is right. You swallow it and you let it go until the end of the season and then you make the change. But like, it is odd. It is odd timing for sure. Like something is there.
Well, yeah, and we're not talking about the Nuggets missing the playoffs here.
Right.
Oh, George Karl, you completely fucked this up with the best player in the NBA. We have no shot at making it. You're out. But we're in the middle of the pack. Like, we need that head coach now more than ever.
That's the thing that I think is getting lost in all of this. Yes, the Nuggets have had an up and down season. Yes, they're on a 4-game losing streak. Yes, they just fired their GM and their head coach. But if this team somehow gets healthy and at the start of the playoffs, or they get out of the first round magically and then they get healthy, this is still a team that can win the championship. Still enough talent
with a good
that
coach.
Starting 5. I say what I don't care. Like that's what's so wild about this is not a roster devoid of talent all of a sudden where everybody's out and you do not have any hope. There is still enough talent on this roster to go out and make a run. Now, is it probable? No. Is it likely? No. Is it well within the realm of possibility? Hell yeah.
You know what it is, Caleb? It's matchup dependent. It's matchup dependent.
I don't believe that either, Pinky. I know everybody. I've heard a bunch of Nuggets fans with this wild, ridiculous theory that they've been tanking so they didn't see the Wolves in the first round. They had the Wolves beat at home in Game 7 last year. And they went on one of the most epic collapses you've seen in sports by blowing a 20-point lead in the second half of Game 7 at home to lose the series. The Wolves are not
poorly against Minnesota.
They do. I'm not saying that's not a bad matchup, but it's not lopsided like people want to keep bringing it up as. That is a very even matchup, and that's why you see the games the way they are. That's why you see Jokic put up a 60-11-10 line and lose in double overtime. You know why they lost in double overtime?
Because Russell Westbrook.
The guy Booth brought in to shore up the bench as a veteran blew the game, which he's done time and time again within his career. I have pounded the table since day one, and what did I say would happen with Russell Westbrook, Pinky?
I don't know. You said he'd be trash, but he's actually played a lot better this year than most people
expected. Say he was going to be trash. That is not what I said. I said he was going to be extremely inconsistent, and it was going to hit you when you really didn't want it to.
You said it was not going to work at all when he first got on the team.
I would continue to say that that's true.
I would not. I would say he's probably played well enough that he'll be on another team at a higher contract salary next year because he has played that well.
What does that have to do with it working out in Denver, though? He didn't elevate the team in any way this year.
Man, if he wasn't on the team with as many injuries as we've had, man, we wouldn't even be in the playoffs right now without his contributions.
Ridiculous, Pinky.
It is not.
Dude,
he started so many games this year, man. You cannot say he hasn't made an impact.
Play any better than Pickett, who came out with a triple-double when he got his first start.
Jalen Pickett is dog shit, and he is really bad. When he's on the court, it's really hard to watch.
If you've got somebody who Pinky thinks is dog shit, putting up the same numbers as the vet who you just said is
in one game,
wins,
in one game, not the whole season.
It's the first game he got to start.
You can't even compare those two, dude.
Caleb, that is a fucking awful take.
Russell Westbrook's role within the offense is not the same.
No, he's played better than you're giving him credit for this season.
No, you guys act like I'm saying he played like shit. He played exactly the way I said he would. 10 points a game, a couple assists, just as many turnovers. That's his season. So if you're going to get that production from a veteran, you can get the same production from a rookie or a second-year guy. Why would you not give more minutes to the second-year or rookie?
Because when they do, he shits the bed.
Because the second or third year rookie doesn't demand a double team, which opens up Jokic in the lane. Like the roles are complete.
Westbrook, he can't shoot. Look what he did at the end of the game with his decision making. Why are we still talking about Russell Westbrook like he's some kind of savior?
He's not a savior. He's just not as awful as you're making him out to be.
Never said that, but you're blaming Booth being fired on Russell Westbrook, and they don't correlate.
No. What I'm saying is Russell Westbrook is a role player. Nothing more. Nothing more than a role player. You could give those minutes to guys to give them more experience so that it's more effective in the postseason. You know what you're getting from Russ. He showed you time and time again what you're going to get from him. High energy and a lot of mistakes. One game he might go off, and the next game he no-shows. That's what you're going to get from Russ. So if you already know that, why would you not try to get more guys experience to provide a deeper bench during a playoff run?
I'm not going to even argue at this point, but
again, because what I said is those other guys that don't have the experience, they are not on the same level as Russell Westbrook, and they're not requiring the same attention as Russell Westbrook. They can't run like Russell Westbrook. They don't have the energy match of Russell Westbrook. Sure, he has a role, but at the same time, his role is much more elevated than that of your second and third bench players.
So I'll ask this another way. If he's making the same mistakes that the rookies are making, why is he still getting minutes?
Because he's Russell fucking Westbrook, dude. What are you gonna bench? Dude, everybody makes mistakes, dude. Sure, he makes a few more, and he is the reason why we lost that Timberwolves game. but he's also the reason why we've won a lot of games. He's the reason that Jokic puts up 61 points. It's because they go to double him instead.
All right. I'm going to shut this down because we only got 15 minutes left.
Doubling Russ, guys.
Hold on.
Nobody is doubling Russ.
Yeah, I might argue a little bit on that one, Cotton. But let's shut this down. Nuggets,
He's
hopefully,
creating space in the lane.
Hopefully Adelman will show us something.
Fellas.
Get us playing together. We'll see what the playoffs hold. At least we still have the Avs, okay?
I will end it with this, Pinky. I've got a hope springs eternal for Nuggets fans. Bob Myers is out there without a team. He is working for ESPN. He built a Golden State dynasty. Working with Jokic is a pretty good gig. The ability to have the potential to go out and get somebody like that to be your next GM, I think that alone can allow Nuggets fans to feel like there's maybe still some hope and possibility moving forward.
That would require the Cronkies to not be so cheap because that's the reason why they lost the last two GMs they had.
Nope. That's not true. They lost Conley because Conley wanted basketball operation control. He wanted president. Josh wasn't going to give that up. Minnesota made him an offer to give him full control. I can't blame Conley for taking that gig. So it's not that they didn't want to pay him. They were willing to max out the contract. They weren't willing to give him the same responsibility that Minnesota was willing to give him, and that was the ultimate decision maker.
All right. Moving on to a little NFL talk. And since we got two guys that don't come on the show very often, we need to get them on more. We need to talk a little NFL. Chris, talk to us about those Bengals, buddy.
It has been a wild ride this offseason, let me say. The Bengals organization is traditionally very tragic, right?
That's a great way to put it.
We have an owner who won't hire a GM. And who is a businessman and who has been the owner through some of the saddest football decades of my life.
Isn't Tobin their GM?
No,
Pseudo GM?
No GM. No GM.
Who's I always see Tobin in relation to the Bengals. Who's Tobin then?
I don't even.
And he's the one letting that VP woman speak out her ass for the last week and a half.
Oh, yeah. The headlines were made that they can maybe after a year we can just go wherever. Like,
we can go wherever we want. Hendricks isn't worth any money. So, he's either going to take her off or he's not. Like
Duke Tobin is the director of player personnel for the Bengals.
Okay.
So he's
a GM.
Pseudo.
Yeah.
Pseudo. That is literally not the GM. Like completely different job title.
He's like GM adjacent.
I mean, okay, so like
sounds like Chris is right, Pinky.
So,
they don't have
Chris, you know what we want to hear you talk about. You know what we want to talk about.
Can we win a Super Bowl in the next couple of years?
Probably not. But
how you feel about signing two wide receivers and not paying your D end?
Okay, so I mean, the thing is, I would have been okay in a scenario. You have to pay Chase. You have to pay Chase.
Absolutely.
Pay me.
It's debatable on if you pay Higgins versus a Hendrickson situation, right? I mean, Hendrickson is 30, had a great season. One player does not a defense make, as clearly we saw last year, because the Bengals had a tragic defense last year. New defensive coordinator this year. Okay. I think I'm not mad at them for paying Higgins. I really am not. Like, it's effectively two number one receivers, right? And
who's been pounding that table for a minute, Pinky?
Yeah. So I mean, the real thing is we have addressed some of the O-line concerns, which were better last year. Still not great, but better. I think we have a great. I was really high on Chase Brown as our running back. Like, even when we added Zach Moss, I took him in all my fantasy leagues. I was like, the ceiling is so high with Chase. He's quick and he's a good back. It's going to rely strictly on the defense this year. And if swap out of the old defensive coordinator, Lou going over to Indianapolis, great, fine. It's going to rely on the defense because offense last year was no problem. But when you give up, when the final score is like 50-45 and you're on the losing end of it, that's a real hard pill to swallow. So, I'm optimistic with some of the moves we've made. I'm looking forward to the draft to see what kind of moves we can make there as well.
We've been doing a lot of mock drafts.
Okay.
So at 19, are the Bengals going all in like Caleb would love to do and grab a Colston Loveland at tight end or grab another wide receiver like Luther Burden and really just, hey, we're going to put up 45?
What I want to do.
Well, you've mentioned it a couple times.
We don't need any of that.
Or we go defense.
We go defense. We re-signed Gesicki as well. We have and we re-signed the backup tight end as well. We have Yoshi Voss, who had some great games last year. Solid player. And so we have a little bit of wide receiver depth there as well. So you focus on the defense. That was by far our Achilles heel last year, and the number one thing that needs to be addressed. And if I had to predict right now, I could see a season where Hendrickson will sit out. But I'm gonna go. Last year when we talked Bengals on this show, I said that T. Higgins would start as a Bengal because it was a question mark under the franchise tag last year. I think Hendrickson's gonna start week 1. He'll be on the field.
I don't know if I can see. I can't see him playing. I just can't.
It's like a coin flip at this point for me. But and that's the optimism in me that probably puts me over the edge to say he's gonna play. In all honesty,
in our mocks, Pinky, I took a safety. Took a corner.
I know, but you mentioned it. You mentioned the excitement. He has the excitement of you should take a offensive player.
We already have so much excitement on offense. There's tons of excitement.
Defensive player, like, come on.
Yeah, I'd like a pick or a 3 and out would be lovely. That's exciting to me at this point.
Higgins is a true one, and I've been saying that for years. So the fact that they can line both of them up, if they're both healthy, that is. I don't think there's any question that is the best wide receiver duo in the league.
I still have a problem paying a guy who hasn't really finished the full season, though.
That's the question, right? Is he's had a little bit of reliability issues and not being as healthy and reliable as you would want from a guy in that position. But when he's on the field, he needs to complete this season. We all
know what happened.
Yeah,
Joe Burrow went in and said, "Hey guys, I need this to happen. Make it happen."
Exactly.
Or I'm out of here.
Totally.
Right.
Totally.
So, yeah. All right. But, I'm excited. I like the Bengals. They're fun to watch.
Yeah.
Good or bad.
Yeah.
It's always a fun game to watch.
It's a put up or shut up season.
Yeah, that's a good point. Do you have a name or a player that you would like to see the draft go to the Bengals? Is there a name or two that you've kind of been like, they could be in that position, or maybe they could fall just a little bit, and that's what I would want to see them jump on?
Not specifically. I would like to see our secondary short up a little bit. I think that getting some young talent in there to kind of compete for some of the guys who have been there for a few years and may have gotten a little complacent with I'm the only option here. To try to challenge a little bit, I think would be a healthy dynamic to go into camp with. I think.
I like that. Cotton, best there is over here. You are a big Broncos fan.
What?
Yeah.
What are you looking for in this draft?
For the Broncos?
Yeah, buddy.
I think it's very clear we got to take a running back first and foremost. We've been running on a committee because they all kind of suck. There's no clear-cut RB1 with the Broncos. And, Sean Payton did a hell of a job beefing up our already stellar defense in the offseason. Signing Evan Ingram for tight end. If he can stay healthy, I think he's going to be a good target for Knicks. But, what the hell are we doing at running back, man? So there's some good options on the table.
Cotton?
If we can work. Yep.
I'm going to make you happy, buddy.
Ooh.
Okay, what you got?
Broncos are drafting 2 running backs.
Whoa!
Which ones? I'm gonna.
Well, that I don't know.
Hold up before
That's
before you
refill
guys
worthy.
get crazy. When Pinky says that, it's going to happen in the second round and the fourth or fifth round.
That's
Yeah.
where you got to make moves.
It's not first round running back, Cotton. I'm going to tell you that right now. I would really
What
expect.
makes you so confident that we might not trade up for something bigger and better?
That ain't happening, man. We need more. We need more talented players on a team overall in certain areas. That I don't feel like we're going to give up draft capital to do that.
Fair.
Is that to say that maybe we don't feel a little frisky on draft night? That could happen. We could easily call up the Saints. We know. God, their GM. Why am I Rooney?
Mickey Loomis.
Or Loomis. Mickey Loomis. I'm thinking Rooney. Mickey Loomis. We know Mickey Loomis real well. We could call him up and make a deal easily, and that would probably work out. I don't see that. I just don't see us giving up more picks in this draft. Could I see us giving up 2026 first round pick? Sure.
Cotton, here's the
Absolutely.
reason
And
you
I think
don't.
it's worth it.
This is the reason I say you don't grab a running back in the first round. Because I've been saying since the start of the college football season, there are 4 dudes. Amari and Hampton got thrown in kind of as the season progressed. I'm not quite as high on him. He's actually my 5th running back. A lot of people have him almost even with Genty. I've got him at 5. There are 4 dudes who I believe have all been throughout the season interchangeable. And I've taken some heat for this. I think Genty is right now the clear one, but I don't think there's a gap between this tremendous gap between him and then Judkins, Henderson, and Johnson. I've maintained all season that if those Ohio State boys didn't have to split carries, their numbers would have looked identical to Genty's.
Sure, I'll agree with that.
So when you talk about those top 4 and then you include Hampton, 5, the likelihood of all 5 going in the first round or before Broncos pick again at 51 are slim to none. So if the Broncos are thinking about this the same way I've been thinking about this all season, you can wait and just take whoever's left at 51. Or if there's a couple, then you can choose the one you like more. But there's no reason to reach because they're all such a tight group. After those first 5, though, things change. And the only one that you could probably say could be included in that top 5, but isn't for one reason or another, is Scatabo. And I think he's the biggest question mark. But Pinky is convinced, and I hope he is right, that the Broncos could grab him at 4 and run with it.
Scatabo at 4?
In the 4th round.
In the 4th round.
In the 4th round. I was like,
not at 4 overall. In the 4th round.
like.
Maybe you reach a little bit in the 3rd if you think he's as good as I think he is, but
prepare yourself.
Big 12 and
prepare yourself for a defensive tackle at 20, or the Broncos to trade back, and then all bets are off if they trade back.
But why? Why do you take defensive tackle first?
Because there's a lot of good defensive tackles, just like there are at running back, but there's only a few truly like what we would consider pretty elite guys versus, there's good depth guys where there's 30 running backs with draftable grades. 30. The most of any draft we've had. Literally, Bucky Irving went in the 5th round. The problem the Broncos had is they drafted behind Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay grabbed Bucky Irving. Otherwise, we'd have had him because they had a high grade on him. There's a lot of running backs this year. I think you can find them throughout the draft that can be a stud
in the jersey
in a
of
good
one
offense.
of them that is right up there in Neal.
Devin Neal. He's a 4th or 5th rounder right now because of how many there are. I think we're going to see running backs. We're going to get a run probably in the 2nd round where we see a bunch go off, and then we'll see kind of a lull for a little bit, and then we'll see a lot of them throughout the rest of the draft. So, again, if I can get a top player at defensive tackle, wide receiver, tight end, I'm probably going to go there first and then grab another running back that could be just as good at 51. But I think we're getting 2 overall.
Let me ask you this, Cotton, and then Chris, you answer when Chase is done. Broncos do anything in the first 2 rounds, Chase, outside of drafting a quarterback, which is absurd and it won't ever happen? Can the Broncos do anything in the first 2 rounds that you would be upset with?
Yeah, I mean, I understand that the value is going to be there on defensive players. I just feel like the Broncos, where they're at right now, the defense is in a stellar place. Like, there wasn't a better defense last year. So if we're not putting all our eggs in the offensive basket right now, going after a defensive player is just, it doesn't make sense to me in the beginning, because that's not what's needed right now. You know, there were so many games that like the Broncos just barely squeaked by last year because the defense kept them in the game. The offense couldn't put up the points that they needed. And, you know, we have some talented wide receivers, but like, you know, they're young. They're not
proven.
They're not proven. There's no like one name that it's like, well, at least they have so-and-so. Like, the Broncos don't have that. And I feel like that's what they need more than anything else.
Look, Cotton, I will be super stoked if the Broncos got Genty. Like, who wouldn't be, right? He's a Bronco now, and he'll be a Bronco forever, right? But if that doesn't happen, I'm at the point now, give me a corner, give me a defensive tackle, give me a wide receiver, give me a tight end. As long as we get a running back in the second round, I've actually become a little bit more fan of the Ohio State boys because I see big plays from them on a regular basis. Yeah. Where I don't quite see the same from Omarion Hampton and Caleb Johnson. I see they're strong. They're going to get you 10, 15 yards on a regular basis, but they're not the guys that really take the ball to the house on any given play. Henderson's that dude. We saw it in the college football playoffs. I think it was the Oregon game. They threw him like a little screen pass, and he took it all the way. Judkins scored 3 touchdowns in one of the games, if I remember right. Those guys are big plays waiting to happen. So if we could get a top player at 20 and then come back and get one of those Ohio State guys in the second round, I'd be just as happy.
Like that.
I mean, and
Chris,
I'd be stoked with Johnson also. Not this Chris Johnson. But, you know, dude, Iowa had zero receiving game. Mm-hmm. Everybody knew every play was going to be a run, and they stacked the box every single time. And Johnson is still breaking off big runs. The dude is a beast. I would love to see him. And I think that he is one that maybe we trade up a little bit for, because I don't think he's still going to be around.
Cotton, I want to tell you right now, I'll be happy with any of these running backs. That's how bad our running back room is.
Yeah, dude, I'm with you.
Mims is not a dog. Mims is a gimmick that has to be game planned perfectly for. They finally figured out how to game plan for him, which is nice, but he is far from a dog. And if Franklin shows up next year and can develop a little more, Vele shows up and develops a little more, Sutton's already there, Mims is on the outside looking in. That is the best case scenario for the Broncos at this point. If Mims is one of your top 3 receivers, you messed up and you did something wrong. I fully believe that. Did he play better last year, and did they get him the ball in good opportune moments? Absolutely. And he had me eating a little bit of crow for that last year, and I'll admit it. But that's not somebody you should be counting on to move forward with as far as talent in the receiver room.
He has room to grow, as does Franklin.
You know what? I think
we have a lot of what ifs.
Has some great room. Like, the dude is built. If you look at a receiver, just looking at him, you're like, that guy, I bet is a badass receiver, just the way that the dude is built. Franklin's a speedster. I feel like he just can't really, like, his hands aren't quite there. His routes aren't quite there yet.
I mean, the dude's 6'3", $190. Like, the talent level was never a question. So it depends on, did he just need a year to get acclimated and he can show more next year? Franklin's you want to talk about prototypical look, Franklin looks like a 1 along with Vele. So if you can get those two rolling, Sutton's getting a little bolder. You can move on from him. Great. So, you're right, Pinky. A lot of what ifs kind of sitting in that wide receiver room right now.
And I don't mind
Yeah.
adding another one. I like Luther Burden. I like McMillan. He's got some things. He, to me, is almost like Sutton-ish. So I don't mind that. Luther Burden is the guy I feel like you can put the ball in his hands and he'll make plays happen. So with a quarterback who's good at getting the ball out and getting it out on time, why not get a guy that you can put the ball in his hands and he can do great things? So
Sure. You, as a Bengals, is there something that they could do in the first 2 rounds where you're just like, are you kidding me right now? Like, did we seriously just do that?
I mean, I'm the opposite of Chase. Like last year, offense pretty good, defense not great. I feel like a lot of games were close. That was because of the offense. So we have no business really, unless we're talking like getting a prospect on the line that is going to continue. Like you have to protect Burrow. He cannot get injured. You have to give him time. He didn't even have great time last year, but he made it work. Like he knew what was going on and was able to
he still went
adapt.
for almost 5,000 yards, 40 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. Like, what are we doing?
So like give the man a little time and so like defense, like we have no business messing with anything that we've already addressed in free agency. Like defense. And if we're focused on offense for whatever reason, that would make me really raise an eyebrow. So
five straight defenders and 2 offensive backup linemen.
Exactly.
There you go. Gentlemen, it has been an absolute pleasure as always. We always end the show with a final thought. Chris, we'll let you start first. Anything, everything, something we talked about, something we didn't touch that you want to throw out there into the nether regions. Final thought, however you want to throw it out.
Yeah, final thought. Threefold. Bengals will I'm not going to say win the division. I think we'll get a wild card spot this year. 2, the Reds, we're going to threaten the Central. Let's go. Look back at the show this time last year, and my prediction was not good. And 3, the biggest hype thing that torpedo bats, the biggest hype thing that is going to end up being nothing in 2 months. Mark it down.
I like that take. All right. Chase?
Well, I'm actually pretty surprised this didn't come up, and I almost brought it up when I was talking about some coaching stuff, but I'm not sure if you guys saw. I'm sure you saw, but Marcus Morris talking about Jokic not being a top 20 player of all time kind of chapped my ass a little bit.
There's
and
a reason we didn't talk about it, Cotton, because we don't subscribe to bullshit.
It's like Gary Player saying the Masters is the 4th best major.
Well, so I almost brought that up at that exact time, being like, dude, all right, like what realm are you living in to not think that Jokic is a top 20 player of all time?
He has an axe to grind.
They're the biggest Jokic haters in the world. Like, that's the most obvious thing in the world, right?
ESPN knew what they were doing.
Like, I literally, when I saw it pop up on social media, I was like, man, this is a really good edit. Whoever, like, did this. And then I was like, oh, this is real. Like, this dude literally, I thought this was fake. This guy really believes that garbage. And it's like, dude, look at the numbers.
He's in the 1%.
The numbers don't lie. The numbers don't lie, you know. And if LeBron's putting up numbers like that, he's like, yeah, it's obviously he's the number 1 guy ever. But like, you know, some goofy white dude does it. He's like, yeah, not even top 20. Get the fuck out of here.
I love that, Cotton. Pinky, final thought, good sir.
Hey, fellas, final thought. I want to say everybody out there who may still be listening or listens later, we will be doing a new Sports Nonsense and Whiskey wrestling podcast. Hopefully, we'll be dropping Friday mornings for you to check out on YouTube and Facebook. It'll be with our buddy Ron Young. Will be co-hosting with me. And then, of course, Robert and Caleb will be joining when they have the time in their schedule to do so. But we'll be talking all things wrestling. And we're starting this Friday with the top 10 WrestleMania matches of all time, which is great because Ron has been to like 10 WrestleManias and he has seen a lot of them live.
Final thought. Normally I'll discuss something we've already discussed. I'm going to go out on a topic that we didn't have an opportunity to touch on tonight because of Nuggets craziness that happened this afternoon that was originally going to be part of the show, but we had to cut it out. Alex Ovechkin is a beast. Number one goal
No
scorer in
doubt.
NHL history. Did it one game faster than Wayne Gretzky. I don't know what to say other than amazing. Absolutely amazing. We're not going to discuss it. I'm not going to get into the particulars or anything, but
I got to ask these two guys.
Hang on. I'll say this, Pinky, and then you can let him talk. I always say you do with greatness, Pinky.
You enjoy it while it's here.
Alex Ovechkin, Mr. Ovi, the great one, is not going to be around much longer. Take the opportunity to appreciate the man while he's still playing the game.
Boys, would you say that Wayne Gretzky was a pretty darn good goal scorer?
Yeah, to say the least.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't the idiot. We did post a Alex Ovechkin video prior to him breaking the record, and we had some guy that tried convincing us that he wasn't a goal scorer because 30% of his points were goals and the rest were assists.
That almost makes me as mad as the people who are diminishing this recent achievement as being like, oh, well, it was just goals. He didn't break his all time. Like, shut up. Like, who else is going to do this? Like, this is such a extraordinary feat. Like, what are we doing?
The man that broke the record is on record saying it's never going to be broken.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
Come on. God.
So
people.
Thank you for that, because it was painful, and he would not get off that hill, and I was just like, mathematically, when you talk about points, sure, but the guy who scored the most goals all time until Alex, I would call a goal scorer. So.
One would say.
And I don't think that takes a genius to say.
The great one. You don't call him the great one because he's the best in the fifth. Right.
Guys, it has been an absolute pleasure. Like we said, you are always welcome.
Appreciate you guys.
We will figure out ways to bring this to the people more often.
Before each golf major.
People will hate that, but I'm down. With that being said, as always, we cannot tell you how much we appreciate everyone that likes, follows, shares, subscribes, supports us in any way. It means the world to us. We don't give a shit how much cliche that entails. We do truly mean it, and we can't thank you enough. If you have opportunity to spend with your family, loved ones, friends, inner circle, do not take those moments for granted. Cherish them and jump on them at every opportunity. Until next week, talk to you people later. Peace.